now time for the Grobstein and Schuster Express on 1252 Sports Chicago. All aboard! And now, here are your hosts, Les Grobstein and David Schuster.
And welcome into the latest edition of the Grobstein Schuster Express. I'm David Schuster, joined as always by my longtime friend, Mr. Les Grobstein, host of Score Overnights on WSCR Radio. And Les, we're going to be joined very shortly by Mark Grote, who, of course, works at the Score along with you and who was my former teammate. And before we talk about anything else, and this was a tumultuous week, certainly in Chicago sports.
Do you think?
Yeah, I do think, and we're going to talk about all of it. But, you know, if Les's sounds a little bit different, let me just explain. Because we had basically a comedy of errors for the last 45 minutes.
It wasn't funny at all. It wasn't comedy.
I'm laughing, to be honest with you, because it's a blanking miracle that we made this thing even get on. Basically, there was a technical difficulty in what's happening right now. You're seeing Les, of course, and you're hearing him, but you're hearing him through my cell phone up against the computer. So talk about meatball surgery to get this on the air. But you know what? As long as the content is good, unless it's got to be good, then we're okay.
It's not just a technical difficulty, it's a mechanical difficulty. And those are two different things, and we're getting both of them today. But we had a little switch over. I mean, we're talking several former Cubs who had good weekends, by the way. Not just Rizzo, Baez, and Bryant, who all homered, but Jack Peterson, he went 3 for 5 on Friday. He went 1 for 5 yesterday. And, Bryant, he ended up homering this past day, today, actually. Yesterday and Saturday, Rizzo homered. Rizzo also homered on Friday. And Rizzo also got the game-tying base hit for the Yankees today. So, I mean, all these guys that were not doing that much tremendously of late with the Cubs, certainly doing it with other teams now.
And let's throw in Craig Kimbrell, who had a couple of scoreless innings, in his first 2 appearances for the White Sox. The White Sox with a big win this afternoon, a walk-off home run. It's by, who hit that walk-off home run? I'm spacing out right now. Brian Goodwin. Thank you very much. And you know what? I was thinking about this lesson. We're jumping all over the place. And by the way, our good buddy Mark Grote is going to be joining us in just a second. He's in the green room, probably drinking some champagne or something, but he'll be joining us very shortly. I was thinking about this, Les, and I've been thinking about this a lot. The White Sox, and they're going to run away and win their division. They're already up 9 games now by beating Cleveland today. They have gotten, besides getting performances from a lot of the pitchers and, a lot of certainly the bullpen, Liam Hendricks, but they've also, hey, that's my good friend Marilyn. She's inspired. God bless you, Marilyn. They've been getting some great performances from some of the lesser known players, including Goodwin today. The backup catcher, Sebi Zavala, with 3 home runs yesterday. They've just been getting contributions from so many people. It's really an amazing story. But again, when you're a winning baseball team, Les, that's what you have to have.
And look what Rafael Ortega did for the Cubs. Is this the first time ever that a White Sox player and a Cub player each hit 3 homers in a game one day after the other?
Probably is. I couldn't tell you for sure. I did see that Ortega, who did have, by the way, Ortega's 4 home runs over the last 2 days equals all the home runs by, the big 3 of Baez, Bryant, and Rizzo, because they had 4 combined. Peterson makes it 5, obviously. But Ortega, people are going to go, oh, my God, look, we got a new player. He's 30 years old. You know what?
New player. I'm not going to get fooled by, hey, good luck to the guy. I'm glad he did it, but come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But, all right, that's obviously the biggest of the big stories. With the Sox, making a big trade for getting Kimbrell, and they also picked up Cesar Hernandez from Cleveland, which sort of surprised me. We'll talk about that too, along with Mark Grote. But really the biggest of the big stories this past week, Les, was the Cubs selling off. I don't think there's any question about that. And all the players that were looking for new contracts were sent off. And, at least the Cubs sent them to teams that are going to probably be in the postseason, all of them. The Giants will for sure. The Yankees are really a better chance now than they were even before Rizzo came aboard. And the Mets still, are probably going to be a playoff team too. And maybe even the Braves. And the White Sox. So really, Jed Hoyer did all those players a favor by sending them to teams that are in contention or will be in the playoffs.
A lot of Cub fans are ticked off in the first place. But the fact that they made a trade with the White Sox and sent Kimbrel to them, that only adds a little cherry on the frosting on the cake in a reversal. Just speaking, I know what most Cub fans have told me, have emailed me, have texted me. They are furious. They were mad at what Jed Hoyer was doing prior to Friday. Now they're even more angry.
Okay, well, let's talk about this because as far as I'm concerned, this was preordained from the moment that Theo Epstein resigned his position. And by the way, by resigning, he gave up his $10 million contract. So he did not want to do what he knew was going to happen down the road, which is what Jed Hoyer had to do.
He's making a lot of money through Major League Baseball, too.
Yeah, he's getting some money back. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But the bottom line is that, this was preordained. If the Cubs were not going to be in it at the All-Star break or the trading deadline, they were going to sell off. And Jed Hoyer was basically under instructions to do exactly what he did. And certainly when they got rid of Darvish, even before the season started, Les, that told you everything you needed to know. This was going to happen.
When they were in first place before the 11-game losing streak, how much were people fooled by that? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Blah blah blah. I don't know. I never thought, even when they were in first place before, that they were still going to be in contention to win the division. I didn't know that they were going to lose 11 in a row. They were going to totally fall apart, and that's exactly what they've done. This is a AAA team now after this weekend.
I don't think they're even a AAA team, but that remains to be seen for the rest of the season. Let me just ask you this, Les. Do you think that maybe the hierarchy, I'm not talking about Jed Hoyer, I'm talking going all the way up the totem pole.
The Ricketts.
Yeah, do you think that, no one likes to lose 11 in a row, but there was a silver lining because now all of a sudden you gave yourself an excuse for trading away all these players?
I don't know about that. Neither one of us, you, myself, or anybody else can prove it. Is it possible? Anything's possible in this. I don't trust anything about Major League Baseball at this stage, starting with Rob Manfred, the so-called commissioner. And let's face it, a lot of his walking papers come from the other owners in the game. It's not just him. He didn't come up with all these stupid rules that they've had this year by himself.
All right, well, I have a lot of friends, as I'm sure you do. And listen, you've been talking to a lot of people on the air over the last couple of days on The Score who are just fed up. And I have some really good friends who are diehard Cub fans, and they say they have had it. They feel like they've been lied to. They feel like they've been cheated by ownership. They feel like their money was invested into a product that now has been completely changed. And listen, you can almost equate the Cubs winning the World Series, and they did get back to the playoffs a couple of times, obviously, in the NLCS. But it's almost like the Bears in '85, where you thought that the Bears were going to win at least one, maybe two more Super Bowls. And the Cubs, you thought for sure they were going to ride high and maybe get another World Series win or two. And they didn't do it.
But they did get to another Super Bowl. That was a completely different team, a different coach.
That was 20 years. That's 20 years. We're not talking.
I understand that. But they did get back to a Super Bowl since '85. Then in '06, they got there again, and thanks to Lovie Smith and his pathetic performance, he got out coached by his good friend Tony Dungy, and that's another story for another day. Bottom line is, I agree. A lot of fans feel like they wish they could get their money back, which good luck on that. That'll never happen.
That's like the movie, help me with Breaking Away, refund. Yeah, that's not happening, obviously. Anyway, let me just ask you this, because now all of a sudden, the Cubs saved a lot of money by, listen, they picked up some of the money of some of the contracts that they gave up, but they also saved a lot of money as well. Do you think like they say that they're going to reinvest this money in these upcoming off season in the next class of free agents. Do you think they're going to do that, or do you think they're going to just pocket the money?
I think to a certain extent they're going to pocket it, but Wisdom, he's not as old a guy as what we've seen with Ortega. Ortega, like you said, he's 30 years of age. There's others that are not proven yet, and if they think, well, this is the future of the team, well, then heaven help the future of the team, because they could be right back where they were before when it was first taken over by Hoyer and Epstein and those guys. And at that point, this was a 100-game losing team.
My good friend Marilyn says one World Series may have been enough for their wallets. They know Cub fans fill the stands no matter what, and the papers are soft on them. God bless you again, Marilyn. Anyway, it'll be really interesting to see what the Cubs do in the offseason. Listen, a lot of people say, well, just one or two free agent acquisitions and maybe some of these players re-sign. First of all, I don't think any of these guys that they jettisoned, whether it's Rizzo or Bryant or Baez, I don't think any of them are coming back to the Cubs. I really don't. And if you heard Chris Bryant today, and I saw his pregame interview and then even his postgame interview, it's like he's in love already with San Francisco, but ultimately he'll be in love with whatever free agent contract he and his agent get.
Yeah, he also is in love with that ballpark in San Francisco. That's one of the best new ballparks out there. That place opened in 2000. It's a magnificent facility. I've been lucky enough to be in there a number of times for even the Cubs series where they said a couple of nasty things, and I was doing a show from out there, and I was only going to do a couple. I was on the air for an hour and a half when I was going to be on for 10 minutes because we saw some nasty things said, and I could guarantee you the Cub management at that time were pretty upset. I don't know if you. I even on a podcast, I'm not going to repeat what was said because it was nasty.
That's fair enough. I was thinking about this when I was thinking about Bryant and the Giants today, because when the Cubs won leading up to winning the World Series in 2016, they obviously had to go through the Giants out in San Francisco. Bruce Levine and I were out there for that series, and we went down to Fisherman's Wharf one afternoon. Great place. Highly recommended, of course.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And anyway, we ran into Chris Bryant's mother and father while we were down there. Nicest people. And, even they said that Chris really loves that ballpark in that city. So, again, for what little solace it is, maybe to anybody, at least Jed Hoyer sent all these guys to places where they have a chance to win another ring, if that's possible. Anyway, with all that said, Les, let's bring in both of our good friends, your current teammate, my former teammate. I hope he's my future teammate once again. Let's bring in Mark Grote, and you can talk. There he is.
Hi, guys. What's happening, gentlemen? It's so good to see your smiling faces on a Sunday night talking all things baseball and football and whatever. I'm sure you guys will even talk about the NBA and Io DeSumo and all that good stuff too.
Oh, we absolutely will, and that's why you're the perfect person, because you've been doing talk shows along with Les, and I'm sure you've heard everything over the last few days. But I love the tweet that you sent out. It was when the new Blackhawks goaltender, Andre Fleury, and he said, "I'm here." And how did you open up your tweet? Hi, Mark.
I just went, "Oh, hi, Mark," because a lot of times when I go on the Score, they play that clip for me from the movie. I don't even know what movie it's from, but it's, "Oh, hey, Mark." And right. So I finally got to say, "Oh, hey, Mark," to Marc-Andre Fleury.
Made me laugh. Hey, let me ask you, before we get to football, we're going to talk a lot about football. And like I was talking to Les, this has been a tumultuous week in Chicago sports. Baseball likely leading the way with the sell-off by the Cubs and the White Sox acquisitions. But the Bears opened up their training camp, and there's a lot of stories there. The Bulls, brought in a local kid, Io DeSumo, from Illinois. I'm not as excited as some other people, although I hope he does well. The Blackhawks, with, again, bringing in Marc-Andre Fleury and making some other acquisitions. But I want to start with the Cubs, Mark, because, the first time around, there was the curse of the GOAT that they didn't win for all that time. But they haven't won anything since you've been in that broadcasting booth. So if it's not the curse of the GOAT, it's the curse of the Grote.
Wow. That is, you know what? Every once in a while, there's been like a steady flow of people blaming me for leaving the pre and post game post.
Like it was your doing.
What's that?
Like it was your doing.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. I don't have that kind of power, but if it helps people, I will accept the blame. If that's what people need, I'm here to be your hero.
But what are your thoughts on what the Cubs did? I mean, it was pretty historic, trading away all those guys, and that followed, getting rid of Darvish at the beginning of the season, and every named player that had something to do really with the 16 series was traded that day. Even Schwarber was traded to Boston that day.
Something dramatic has been coming in this organization really since they won the National League Championship Series, or they were in the National League Championship Series, I should say, back in 2017 and lost to the Dodgers. Really, since then, 2018, 19, and 20, it was such a similar story every year where the offense faded away and either they would bow out in the regular season or get into the postseason and lose because of the offense. So something has been coming for quite some time. I did not see it happening where they all go all at once on the same day. I mean, that was not the same day technically, but to have it happen that dramatically, I didn't see it coming. We all knew that something was going to happen, but to that extent, no, I didn't see it coming. But I don't know. I think it's sad, but it's not necessarily bad because for whatever reason, this group, this core, was just no longer getting to the next level. And a good thing about the Cubs these days and their fans, the expectations are higher. It's a different organization that instead of expecting, 40,000 fans in the stands every day, which they still expect, it's more about winning now, which I think is good. So it's kind of a mixed emotion that I am having, I think, just like everybody else, but something needed to change. Let's face it.
And let's put this in here too. I've mentioned this a million times. There's no such animal as a curse, a hex, or anything along that line, or it just doesn't exist. So I basically will say you're not guilty of anything with regard to that, Mark.
Yeah, Schuster, don't be stirring that stuff up. Now you.
I always do.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's on the serious side of that. That's one of the good things that this version of the Cubs did. Like, I will always say that this version of the Cubs, which ultimately ended, we think, will always be successful because it did put away all that silliness, whether it was the curse or Bartman or hell, the 69 Cubs, the 84 Cubs, the 2003 Cubs, all that stuff was kind of just wiped out. It wiped it all out, and it still exists, but it's not at the front row anymore.
Mark, the people who bring that up more than anybody else are White Sox fans.
There you go.
Fans, Brewer fans, and both of those that exist, and that's both Marlins fans.
Hey, Mark, I'm going to say this. First of all, you're right. I mean, the memories certainly of winning the whole thing, and even leading up to winning the whole thing. 15 was a really good year. 16 obviously was a great year. And there were some good memories even after that, even though they started fading down the stretch in these last couple of years. But, I'll never forget being in Cleveland with you, of course, in 16, and with Pat and with Coomer and everybody else. I mean, that's a memory I will absolutely never forget. Here's Fat Mike. Did Mike want to say something?
There was Fat
Mike. What happened to Fat Mike?
I'll just read what he wrote here. I personally still hate Steve Bartman. I can't read the rest. Anyway.
Mike, it wasn't his fault. He had nothing to do with it.
Hey, you can
blame Mark Pryor for not getting that third out in that inning.
Well, that is true. Let me ask you this, Mark. Do you think that what happened over the last couple of days, meaning Thursday and Friday at the deadline, do you think that was preordained if they weren't going to be, in a position to challenge for anything this season? Because I do. I think Theo Epstein knew this was going to happen. I think, when they traded Darvish even before the season, they were sort of signaling already that this was what's going to happen down the road.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they didn't expect to have a winning season this year. When you trade away the runner-up for Cy Young and you get back what they got back and you get one major league starting pitcher and a starting pitcher at that, and Zach Davies, who is, a 3 in a rotation at best, and then a bunch of no-name guys. It is a salary dump, and it should have told the fans, it should have told the players in the organization, everything they needed to know. You do not trade away one of the best pitchers in baseball if you expect to win. When they signed Jock Peterson, it brought back a little bit of hope because it was like, okay, I thought they were going to go to bat with some, no-name left fielder. They brought in Jock Peterson, and, so that trading was everything.
5 on the Friday night with his new team in Atlanta. That Jock Peterson.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, well, he's got new life, Les. What about the other side of town, Mark? I mean, what do you think about the White Sox? They had some holes, obviously. To a lot of people, surprise, they picked up another closer, and we'll see in the long run or the short run if it works with both those guys. So far, I guess it's okay. And they also got a second baseman because they were down one. They gave up Madrigal. Some people are upset about that. Other people are not. What do you think about what the White Sox did?
They needed another bullpen arm. I mean, it's too bad that they did, because we thought at the beginning of this season that they were going to have one of a top 3 bullpen in baseball. It simply hasn't worked out that way this year. All the guys that you were depending on have become the opposite of that, except for that there were 2 guys who were good this year in the bullpen, Michael Kopech and Liam Hendricks. Really, that's it. I mean, Matt Foster failed early on in the season. Cody Hoyer, even a guy who ended up on the Cubs, he failed in the 8th innings time after time after time. You name the guy, and he was not good this year for the White Sox in that bullpen. So they had to, and now it's like a blessing in disguise, because you have maybe the 2 best closers in baseball, and it's the cliched proverbial good problem to have. So it's a great move for the White Sox. It might even be a good move for the Cubs, because Cody Hoyer was good last year. You get the guy this year. They need more contact, so Nick Madrigal can supply that for you. But this move, getting Craig Kimbrell is great for the White Sox.
You want to read that thing, or should I read it?
Why don't you read it, Les? Go ahead.
Brent Ross being the architect of the rebuild. Who are they going to get to do that? Tony La Russa? I don't think so.
Well, first of all, a manager is not the architect of anything. He plays who he has. But her point is well taken. I mean, who's going to be the manager the next time they win? Is it going to be David Ross or somebody else? I think that's what the question is.
I think that's a really interesting question, actually, because I think there's 2 parts to this. Like, David Ross did not sign up for this necessarily. That is, everybody leaving, and essentially until further notice, until they do sign players, this is a rebuild. So I don't know if Ross signed up for this. I also don't know if, Theo Epstein is the one that hired David Ross, not Jed Hoyer. I'm sure Hoyer has a great relationship with him, but we just don't know. We don't know where David Ross stands.
I have the greatest solution for the Cubs.
Oh, good.
You get Dale Swaim to come in for a season and a half. Then you get Rick Renteria to come in for about a season, give or take. Then you see if Joe Madden's still available with his RV, and you put it all together.
You're missing one name.
Who am I
Mike Quaddy.
Oh my God, Mike Quaddy.
Well, let's bring back Lou.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Hey, I don't know who these players are anymore. You had Bryant, you had Rizzo, and now there's nobody like you. Wilson Contreras is that?
To your friend Laura, no, not Joe Girardi. I told everybody he was not a candidate to get the job this time around, and Ross got it instead. Nobody believed me. I said Girardi has no chance of getting the Cub job, and he had no chance.
Yeah, Joe Girardi's hearing plenty of booze right now in Philadelphia, so I think he'll stay put for a while. He's got a 3-year deal anyway.
He beat the crap out of the Cubs.
What's that, Les?
He beat the crap out of the Cubs when the Phillies played the Cubs here.
Yeah, that's true. And he'll get another chance before the season's over. Let's switch over to the Bears, Mark. I got a bunch of questions. Obviously, everybody's super excited about Justin Fields, and rightfully so. I think it was just a great acquisition in the draft, and it gives fans hope. What's your opinion, minus injury, of course, to Andy Dalton and how he plays? When should we see Justin Fields?
Well, that's the billion-dollar question. I will say this, that having watched them both obviously every day in training camp, right now Andy Dalton is the better quarterback, and that probably was to be expected. And Justin Fields hasn't been bad. He had one day that I guess you could call bad, but since then he has been pretty good. But Andy Dalton, he knows exactly what he's doing. There are things that Justin Fields has to learn, and even in the last couple of days he's picked it up. So who knows what his progress will be as time goes on. If Justin Fields does continue to progress at a high rate, even in camp, even in the preseason games, it's not out of the question that he would start September 12th. Probably not. But what Matt Nagy has said all along, and I am going to believe him, he has said, when I see it, I'll know it. And I'm also assuming that could happen at any time. So I do think it's going to take a few games. I would, if you really want to pin me down on a guess, I would say game 6 or 7, unless Andy Dalton is just absolutely lights out and he's undeniable.
All right. Speaking of quarterbacks, obviously Fields and Dalton are 1 and 2, 2 and 1, whatever. Nick Foles is still on this roster, and I get such a kick, whether it's you or Big saying, "Well, he looked great against that third-team defense." I laughed my butt off at that, but. I mean, listen, he is absolute trade bait, is he not? I mean, there are teams, and Indianapolis, is already down a quarterback, Carson Wentz, and they signed some guy today who I never heard of before. So, I mean, is it likely that he will be dealt for some kind of draft pick?
I don't know how it will go down.
Did you see who the Saints signed today?
What's that, Robert?
Did you see who the New Orleans Saints signed today?
No.
Prince Amukamara.
Okay. All right. Prince Amukamara, man. He was the big part of the choreography of the defensive dances back in the day. He was little secret. He was the leader of all of that. You
know what he was, Mark? He was the guy to go to after games and get a good soundbite.
That too. Yeah.
What about Foles though? I mean, are they smart enough to at least take a look around before the season starts and maybe get a 4th or 5th round pick for him?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if you would get that at this point, but somehow, some way, I find it hard to believe that he would be on this roster like at this point in his career as a 3rd-string quarterback. I can't see Nick Foles wanting that, and I'm sure the Bears would accommodate him in some way, shape, or form if they could. I imagine they probably could get maybe 5 through 7 if they're lucky, a 4th-round pick, but. Yeah, I mean, I had been saying the same thing that, watch for injuries around, in the preseason right now. And that's when you'll start to hear Nick Foles' name. But the first time that it did happen in Indianapolis, we did not hear his name. So He's been out there. He's been taking 3rd-string reps, and we'll have to stand by and see. But I don't see him being on this team September 12th.
Go ahead, Les.
Well, basically, before it's an opening part of the schedule. We all know that. Opening with the Rams, then they have 2 teams from the AFC North, including the Bengals, and we don't even know if they're going to have their quarterback or anything like that. But the bottom line is we don't know who the Bears are going to have.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like a lot is going to happen between now and what's the first preseason game? That's when it's going to be interesting on August 14th, because Matt Nagy has said over and over 3 times now, I've been counting, that he is going to play starters more in the preseason, like making it sound like they'll play a lot. And he also said that Justin Fields will play a lot in the preseason. And I think that that's where we're going to be able to gather the most intel about him, as in how ready would Justin Fields be to either start the season, or if he's the backup quarterback and Andy Dalton, God forbid, gets injured on September 12th, is Justin Fields ready to come in? And we're going to learn more about that in those, again, 3 preseason games this year. And I know Grobber loves the preseason. So,
well, I used to go to preseason games even on the road all the time. I've gone overseas for 3 of them. I went to London. I got to go over there for a whole week for Bears and Cowboys in '86. I went to Sweden when they played the Vikings. I went to the game in Germany when they played the. That was kind of cool in Germany when they ended up playing.
They didn't play in Germany.
They played the 49ers in that one. They got slaughtered. And then in Ireland, the game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Today, I wouldn't go across the street for that. I mean, I'd go to Soldier Field for the home games, but for any of these road games, they only have one road game this year, and that's with the Tennessee Titans. And
Tennessee on August 28th
this year, and I'm glad they cut it down to 3 from 4 because, and then by next year they might add another game and make it 18 regular season and only 2 preseason. Don't be shocked.
Mark, I had so many Bear questions, but you threw me off balance because you brought up Mike Quaddy's name. So I'm really in a deep sweat right now. And the thing I most remembered about Mike Quaddy, he used to walk around with that blue bat during batting practice. I don't know what the hell he did with it. It was almost like something out of the movie. Who was the movie where the guy walked around with a big club? I can't even remember.
Oh, was it called The Blue Bat?
Walking Tall was the guy who Walking Tall. Anyway, I do have some Bear questions, actually. Why the small crowds at Lake Forest? What's going on up there?
I don't have the exact answer to that, but I mean, there's a number of things. I mean, Bears fans can't just show up. You have to have a ticket. You have to enter a lottery to get the tickets, and you get up to 4 tickets if you would like. So I think that scared some people away in terms of doing it like that. People also they're being shuttled from the mall, I think Vernon Hills Mall, to Lake Forest or to Hallis Hall. I don't know if that's been a deal breaker for some people, but it's really surprising. They allow for 1,000 a day. There's been maybe 200 or 300 people every day, and it's very quiet and very odd. So I'm not sure. I would imagine that the Bears are going to look into it, or they probably have some idea why, and they'll try to change it, if not for this year, but for next year. And COVID could also be scaring people too.
I was going to say that's got to be the reason, because you can't really interact with the players or get autographs or anything, can you?
No, I don't know. I don't think that is. Yeah, I can't imagine. I haven't seen anybody doing that, but yeah, I think that there are people who are still scared to be around big crowds. So I imagine that could be part of it. And then just the, going online and getting in a lottery and being in a waiting room. I mean, I don't know if people have thought that it was worthwhile, or maybe they didn't think it was possible that they were going to actually get tickets. So I'm not sure.
Go ahead, Les.
By the way, just in case anybody wondered, the Red Sox lose again. They get swept by Tampa Bay.
No one cares. No, who cares?
What's up with the Boston update? You got money on them, Grobber? What's going on? You broke into that like it was.
The Sox and Yankees both lose. I'm happy. Now the Yankees did win today, but I'm so sick and tired of both of those teams being jammed down our throat.
All right, hey,
do you hate Anthony Rizzo now because he's on the Yankees?
No, I like Anthony Rizzo, but he's with the Yankees.
I'll be in Iowa for that game between the White Sox and the Yankees. It's a week from this upcoming Thursday, so I'll get a chance to talk to Anthony. Hopefully,
you disappear into the cornfields.
I hope so.
You're going to that game?
I am going to that game. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. You're covering it?
Yes.
Oh, that's great, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go there. Maybe Kevin Costner will be there. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, hey, he'd be like, "Oh, you're David Schuster. You're the guy that used to review all the movies on the Score."
That's right.
Grote.
Hey, let me ask you this, Mark. Back to Bears and current football. In my mind, I have a couple of guys who have to have major rebound seasons. I got 2 in mind. Let me see if they jive with you. Who are your two guys?
I think Robert Quinn is numero uno.
Number 1.
Is that one of your guys?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to make his existence worthwhile. And he admitted that he was bad. I'd go with him, and I'll stand the defense too. I think Eddie Jackson, man. I mean, he had 0 interceptions last year.
Right.
He had a bad season last year. So I think that, and especially with such a young secondary with Jalen Johnson, and who knows who's going to play opposite of Jalen Johnson? Could be Kendall Vildor or Desmond Trufant. But I think he has to have a big year. So those are my 2 guys.
All right. So what's the story with Mustafa? He said he could eat everything he wanted. I mean, is it sort of scary to walk by him where he might take a bite out of somebody or something?
Yeah. So they asked him to put on some weight, and it's supposedly muscle weight, but yeah, he straight up said, it's like an offensive lineman's dream. He was told eat whatever you want, dude. And he's like, Lou Malnati's pizza, fried chicken, whatever, dude. So I don't think that's just a dream for offensive linemen, by the way. That's a dream of all of us. Go ahead, eat what you want. Actually, you're going to be a more productive human being if you eat whatever you want. I mean, that is the dream, right?
Yeah. We have our walk down memory lane segment upcoming in just a second here, Les, and even yourself, Mark. But actually, you just sparked an old time memory. At least when they were up in Platteville, and that was the end of the world as far as I'm concerned. To be able to eat at the tables adjacent to the Bears in the old whatever cafeteria. And when I saw William Fridge Perry carrying his tray over with about 3 chickens and everything else around it.
Oh my God.
That was a frightening sight, let me tell you.
Right. And that's when players didn't carry that kind of weight. Now half the league looks like that.
You're right.
When they moved the team to Bourbonnais, which they had to do in 2002, that was an agreement with the state of Illinois. When they did that, that was basically the end of being around players and stuff like that. And then
All right, so let me ask you, Les, because I was at training camp. I haven't been to Hallis Hall yet so far, but I was at training camp in Platteville, again, the end of the world. I was also at Bourbonnais, the second end of the world. But I never went to Rensselaer. I'm sure you did. What was that like?
I was just a kid then. I was not working for the media. I think the final year I was. They played they actually had not a game, but a scrimmage with the Cardinals. And that was kind of cool. One year they had a scrimmage against the college all-stars who existed then, and they lost 7-0. I'll never forget the best thing I saw in the newspapers the next day. Someone wrote in and said, "Cardinals 7, Bears nothing. Bring back Jim Dooley." Because that was kind of fun. But St. Joseph's College in Rensselaer obviously still exists, but they moved out of there. Temporarily, Jim Finks moved them up to Forest, and then eventually that's when they ended up going up to Platteville.
What's it like up at Hallis Hall having the training camp up there, Mark? I mean, obviously they've improved a lot of the facilities up there. How different is it?
I got to tell you, they're pulling it off in terms of the bleachers that I mentioned have not been filled. They've used one of the back parking lots to put up like the interactive area where kids can, bean bags and, the whole interactive process and experience and all that kind of stuff. Like I couldn't picture it in my mind how it would look if the Bears were going to hold training camp there. But I got to say, it looks the part. And now it's just a matter of, like we were talking about earlier, just trying to get more people to come out there. But it's, there's tents all over the place and signs, to direct people on which way to go. They've got grills set up out there. Like I said, the bleachers. So it's kind of that. You guys have both been to Bourbonnais, which was a carnival atmosphere, and they set it up similar to that. Not the same kind of space and not the same kind of population, though.
Mark, in your opinion, you always hear about either coaches or GMs that are on the hot seat even before a season starts. Is there any hot seat for either Nagy or Pace going into this season?
Here's the way I look at that. I don't think that there is an edict that they have to make the playoffs, because George McCaskey, the Bears' primary owner, the chairman, basically said that, he said that there's not. I mean, we had him on. I was part of the interview, and he said, no, there's not some sort of it. But sometimes they don't make those kind of things public. And of course, if the Bears go 3 and I'm trying to do the math this year with 17 games. If they're 3 and 14. If they're yeah, exactly. That's what my brain was doing. It's late. If they're 3 and 14 this year, all bets are off. You know what I mean? Like, so it's hard. Like, I guess we go on what we've been told, and that's that they're not necessarily on the hot seat. But every coach is on the hot seat if you have a horrific season. I mean, the Bears have been 8-8 for the last 2 years. If it goes much worse than that, then who knows? But that definitely has been downplayed in terms of whether or not they're actually on the hot seat.
All right. So while you opened up training camp with the Bears in Lake Forest, Aaron Rodgers came into town with Green Bay, and that was a major story up there. Was there any conversation, to the south at Lake Forest about Rodgers? And I mean, he ripped the crap out of that organization. What was the conversation, if at all, about all that?
It's funny. I can give you one example. Like, I guess we haven't asked a lot of players about it, but we did ask I don't remember the reporter that asked, but somebody brought it up to Roquan Smith. Like, does it, the way the question was posed, it was something like, did it suck to see that Aaron Rodgers reported to camp and he's back, And Roquan was like, he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, I like playing against that guy. He's like, I like to play against the best. So, I think that's, what's that, Grobber?
Does he like losing?
I'll ask him. I'll ask him the next time I see him. I have reason to believe he doesn't. Huh?
I said, does he like getting his ass kicked?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, I'll definitely ask him, but I don't know, Grobber. These guys are, they're on 10 on 1 through 10 on how competitive they are. So they want to beat the best, man. They don't want to have some scrub in there. They want to win. They want it to be legitimate,
But they better learn how to beat their meat before they learn how to beat the other team.
Les talks a lot dirtier on podcasts than he does here on the radio, if you didn't notice already, Mark.
You let the Grobber loose. So some Grobber asked clearly, can I swear and say dirty stuff? And you're like, yep, you can.
Make sure you go back to Roquan Smith and ask just the way Les just said it. Do you like getting your ass kicked by Aaron Rodgers?
Right. Well, Les, you'll be at the games this year. You could ask him.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure you'd love that.
Is there going to be locker room access after games, or are they going to trot him out in the hallways, or how's that going to work?
I think there's going to be locker room access. I'm not completely clear on it, and things could change. I mean, my God. I mean, I have to go back to wearing a mask, and I live in a high rise, and they're requiring masks again tomorrow. So I think right now the way it's set up is that there will be some locker room access, but who knows, man? Who knows if it will change? And yeah, obviously the players that are not vaccinated, they won't. I don't think that they're going to be available to us, or maybe they'll be available in some other way, shape, or form. And I don't know how many media members they're going to let into the locker room. So it's a whole, yeah. I mean, I think we will be, but stand by. Things could change.
Did you see this, both you guys, that the Minnesota coach, is that Zimmer? I think it's still Zimmer. Yeah. That the Minnesota coach was really PO'd because of his 4 quarterbacks. Only one of them is vaccinated, and he is pissed off about that.
Well, Grobber, your guy Ron Rivera was going off too, wasn't he?
Yeah, him too.
Well, they both have every right to be. The whole thing is a bunch of baloney. And am I one to talk? Yeah, I've had my vaccinations. Kathy had hers.
Good.
My son has had his. He's a fellow ISU alum, as you are, Mark.
That's right. That's right.
One of your fans misses you on the Cubs broadcast, Mark. I mean, I'm sure you haven't heard that before.
I can't read it. What are they saying?
They said they miss you. They love you.
Thank you. I miss you too. However, I do like covering 17 games a year as opposed to 162 games a year.
Hell yeah, you're not on the road as much either. Speaking of which, are you going to be traveling at least initially or down the road? What's the deal?
Unfortunately, I will not be. It's possible that I will, like, maybe the Green Bay road trip, maybe Detroit. So in other words, perhaps the division games, but no, right now, because of budget constrictions due to the pandemic, I am only doing the sidelines for home games.
All right. And how about Joniak? Is he going to be?
Yeah. Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer, they're back on the road this year, so they will cover every game from Homer Road. They will be there at the stadium, which is great. So,
all right,
steps, I guess.
Well, I'll look forward to seeing you at the stadium, of course, also, Mark. Hey, let's move on to our walk down memory lane segment.
Okay.
And I'll lead off. Just think of something, anything over all the years. And Mark, you can go baseball, football, whatever you want, or you can talk about your transitions with Grobstein at 4:45 in the morning, whatever you want. Anyway, I'll give you mine since it was the trading deadline this past week. I remembered a trading deadline. I think, help me out, Les. I think the year was 2004, and it was right up against the deadline. I think it was a Saturday afternoon, and Jim Hendry, who was the GM at that time, had that cell phone, which was almost surgically attached to his ear, by the way, all the time. And he was walking. He was obviously on the phone trying to pull off a deal. And he did. Literally like a minute before the deadline, Nomar Garciaparra came over from the Red Sox. And, Garciaparra was a hell of a player in Boston. He was a 5-time All-Star. He won a couple of batting titles, yada, yada, yada. He only played 105 games over a season and a half with the Cubs. He was pretty injury-prone before he even went on to the Dodgers. Of course, he got Mia Hamm as his wife, so he wasn't all that bad. But I just remember that he pulled that one off literally with seconds to go at the trading deadline.
Yeah, and Garciaparra just couldn't stay healthy once he came here. That was his biggest problem.
Right. Either of you guys, if you want to throw out before we get to Stump the Grobber.
Well, I'll go just because you stimulated a memory that I have with Jim Hendry in regards. Do you guys remember when the Cubs got Rich Harden?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the pitcher. So they get him and
4 innings and then he starts.
Yeah, so I was working at WBBM at the time, and we had gotten and this was when information was not as accessible, as it is now, where everybody knows everything about everything, in terms of velocity and all that kind of stuff. But we had heard that, his velocity was down, and so I go on the field, and I like Jim Hendry, but he was down on the field, and as you guys both know, he was one of the more accessible guys. Like if you wanted to talk to him, he usually would talk. And so I wanted to get him on the record, and I said, hey, we had a tip that Rich Harden's velocity was down, and I've got the tape rolling, and he's like, hold on a second. He goes, turn off that tape recorder. And he fucking undressed me.
Literally?
Oh, he was like, you guys and your stories and your BS, and I can't even believe, I don't know where you guys get this stuff. He's like spitting at me, and I'm like, whoa. and I go, Jim, this is why I'm asking you. I'm asking you this question so you could clear it up and you could tell me I'm wrong. So, and then he's like, blah, blah, and he just walked away. And then I saw him 20 minutes later and walking through the old Cubs clubhouse, and he just looks at me and he's like, all right. He's like, I'm sorry. It's over. I'm sorry. So that was
Henry when the Cubs signed Kevin Gregg, and I said to him, and you were standing right there.
I was right there. Yep.
And I said to him, and I'd always got along with Jim, and I did after that too. And I said, Jim, why did you sign a guy to be a closer in this ballpark that gave up more home runs than any relief pitcher in baseball?
Yep.
What are you talking about? He looks at me and goes, oh, and he gave me the same thing he gave you. And he was, remember how furious he was?
Oh, he was furious with you because that was like a feel-good night and everybody's loving life. And, yeah, Grobber came hard with it. It was a good question, man. I'll never forget it.
I can never be.
Not only that, they also they got the worst outfielder possibly. Remember?
Who? Oh, was that the Milton Bradley?
That was him.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Lou Piniella pushed Hendry into getting Milton Bradley. That's what happened there.
For the left.
It was Bradley. Pinello had a fit.
Well, no, Piniella wanted a left-handed hitter, and
this guy was a switch hitter who could only hit homers righty.
Listen, he was he was one of the worst things that ever happened to the Cubs. There's many bad things, but he was up there. And then he and Piniella had a falling out about a third of the way through the season. And then Hendry had to dump his ass at the end of the season. So Milton Bradley was just a terrible human being on top of being a mediocre player with the Cubs. It's also funny. I remember another draft, or I think it was right at the deadline when the White Sox, the White Sox picked up big game James Shields. And they got him after he had given up 10 runs in a third of an inning. And I remember then, and as I do now, why do you acquire a guy who just had one of his worst outings of his entire life?
Yeah.
Well, don't you let him at least have maybe another outing or two before you? It wasn't right at the deadline. It was a little bit before that, actually. Anyway. Well, it was a combination, I think, of Rick and Kenny, to be honest with you. Anyway, and then he came here, and then he was is equally as bad in a White Sox uniform for a long stretch as he was in that final outing out in San Diego. And of course, they gave up, a future All-Star also to get him, which made it even worse.
Oh yeah, no, it was terrible. It was what's his junior
Yes.
in San Diego. Why am I blanking out his name right now?
Tatis.
Tatis, who was injured.
Yeah.
So that one is pinned on Rick Hahn for whatever it's worth.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, I don't know if Mike is able to cue this up, but it's time now for.
What was that?
That doesn't really make sense.
What?
Live and let live.
I'm not familiar with that
It's
expression.
a James Bond.
It doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Of course, I'm alive.
Queens on casino night. I am going to drop a deuce on everybody.
I just want to say for the record, I did not kill anyone. Stanley was attacked by his own heart.
I know where this is going.
Do you?
No. Okay.
It's now time for Stump the Grobber on the Grobstein and Schuster Express.
Stump the Grobber. It's one of our segments that we do here on the Schuster Grobstein, or actually, I give myself top billing for once. Grobstein Schuster Express. Sorry, Les.
Doesn't matter.
I know it doesn't, but it's also look at he put on his Mr. Magoo glasses. It's also Stump the Grote too. And so, all right, here we go, guys.
Good.
You've done it again. Anyway, all right, here's a tough one right off the bat. Guys, who's the only person to be inducted or enshrined into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, the NFL Hall of Fame, and the College Football Hall of Fame?
You were breaking up. You say NFL.
Yeah, who's playing? Les, don't play with your phone.
Yeah, something's. I can't hear.
All right, well, someone's playing with their phone. All right, again.
Cut it out.
Who's the only person to be inducted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, the NFL Hall of Fame, and the College Football Hall of Fame?
Oh my God!
It's a tough one.
I think
wait.
can't think of the name.
Well, that's really good, Les.
Wait, did you say college, NFL, and MLB?
MLB, NFL, and college football.
Man, it could have been Bo Jackson, but he never
No.
made the MLB.
No, it was not.
No.
Jim Thorpe?
No, but that's a decent answer.
That would have been my guess is Jim Thorpe.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you the answer. I'll give you a little hint. He was a Major League umpire.
Oh, very good. Is it Dutch Renner?
No.
Is it Frank Pulley?
Yeah, right.
Wasn't Angel Hernandez either, let me tell you.
Was it Eric Gregg?
The answer was Cal Hubbard.
Wow.
Cal Hubbard played 9 years in the pros for Pittsburgh, I think the Giants and Green Bay, if I remember correctly. He also was a major league umpire for many years, and he went to Centenary College in Louisiana.
Wow. I don't feel at all bad for not knowing that. I have never heard of Cal. What was his name? Cal
Barrett
Hubbard.
Keith played there, but what is Centenary's nickname?
I don't know, Les.
The Gentleman.
The Gentleman.
Yep. Now,
Oh.
Gentleman, where? Yeah, that Centenary played Loyola with Robert Parrish at Chicago Stadium. That was the last stadium doubleheader they ever had. Loyola played Centenary, and Northwestern played Northern Illinois. The reason
Okay. All right.
broadcast that.
All right. Well, Les, you just answered my second question because I'm going to say, what other famous player who went into a Hall of Fame also played at Centenary College? You just answered it. Say it again, Les.
Robert the Chief Parrish. And boy, was
Nice. Very good.
unbelievably skinny.
Yeah, I saw Robert Parrish in college because Centenary came up to play. I went to Southern Illinois. It's one of the few things that I remember because everything else was a fog for the 4 years that I was there.
I bet.
But I do remember.
You guys,
What's that?
did Centenary beat SIU?
I might have been two altered states. I don't remember, to be honest with you. But it was a good game, nonetheless, because the Salukis had a really good team. That was when Mike Glenn and Josie Merriweather played, and they did play against Centenary. And I honestly don't remember who won. All right, Obviously, the White Sox and the Cubs pulled off a big trade with Craig Kimbrell coming to the White Sox. So the question was now Craig Kimbrell and Liam Hendricks combined within 5 guys, within 5, how many combined saves do the two guys have career-wise?
Oh, my God. Between the two of them?
Mm-hmm.
300.
Nope.
I'll say 400.
Keep going.
Wow. 600.
No, not 600.
I just wanted to get the ridiculous one out so we can get a better 456.
Getting close. Getting very close. The answer is 436. And, people have to keep in mind, I mean, Kimbrell, who will be a Hall of Famer someday, he's got 371, and he still has a lot of good years left in him. Hendricks only has 66, but boy, he's got great stuff. The two of them, it's going to be really solid bullpen. So the answer is 437 combined between the two guys.
Very good. Very good.
Okay, which leads me into the next question. Give me the top six all-time career save leaders.
Okay.
Rivera's one.
Dennis Eckersley.
Dennis Eckersley is not on the list.
Woo.
He was a starter much of his career.
That is correct.
Lee Smith.
Lee Smith is number 3.
Bruce
So
Sutter.
Suter is not on the list of the
Okay.
top 6.
Okay. Mariano Rivera, we said. Did he Trevor San Diego? Closer.
I'll give you that. Trevor Hoffman is number
Trevor Hoffman.
He's
Yep,
number
Trevor
2 on the list.
Number 2. Okay.
So you got the first, second, and third guys. Now you're looking for numbers 4, 5, and 6.
Okay. Let's see here. What do you got, Grobber?
Not Hoyt Wilhelm, no.
What's that?
He said Hoyt Wilhelm.
Not saying he was actually Bill Negro, but he was a starter.
No, Phil Necro, not a closer. All right, let's see here.
Do.
Yeah. Is it? No. Goose Gossage.
Not Goose, surprisingly.
Let's see here.
Anyway,
Who?
Gossage was bad by the end of his career.
Oh yeah, I know he was bad, but most players are bad by the end of their career. I thought maybe
He was
they
terrible.
collected enough saves. Who won a lot? Was there anybody on the Reds that was ever a closer back in the Big Red Machine days?
No, none of those guys. Not Charlton, not Dibble. Neither one of those.
Yeah, none of those guys. Are we going to be like mad that we didn't get it? Give us.
Yeah, you'll be mad. You'll be mad.
What team?
One of them would be, one of them mostly with Houston. One of them mostly with the Mets.
Oh boy.
So it was.
The one with Houston was a lefty.
Holy shit! Who am I not thinking of? And then the Mets. Oh man, Kent DeColvey? No.
John Franco.
What'd you say, Les?
John Franco.
John Franco is number 5, so you're down to 2 more.
Is one of them Willie Hernandez?
No.
Damn.
Still one of the Willie Hernandez winning the Cy Young one year still blows my mind.
And he won the MVP that year.
That's right, he did. He had a
great.
great season, but I think back to his Cub days, and I think this guy really won those 2 awards. Wow.
He was the setup guy for Suter.
Yeah.
We got one more.
2 more.
Oh yeah, I was wrong on Willie Hernandez. God, who was the Mets guy?
We already got it, Franco.
Oh, Franco. Right.
All right, I'll give it to you. The Houston was Billy Wagner.
Oh yeah.
Billy Wagner, and then Jeff Dandyman did have that one. And number 4 on the list is Francisco Rodriguez.
Wow. Okay. K-Rod.
So, yeah. All right, so I'll give you a couple others that are on the list. Bruce Sutter, you mentioned, he had 300 even career saves. And Bruce Sutter was the most unhittable pitcher when he first came up and was throwing that knuckle curve or whatever.
Split finger.
Yeah, the
Split
split
finger
finger is
fastball.
a classic split. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Bert Hooton had the knuckle curve. But when he first came up, that ball just literally just like fell off the table. It was the most unhittable pitch. nowadays, obviously, a lot of these guys throw it, but no one ever threw it better than he did.
Don't tell Ryan Sandberg it was unhittable.
Well, that one day, Sandberg got him that day for sure.
That one day, yeah.
Got him for sure. And by the way, I don't know if I told you this.
You know who used to kill Bruce Sutter? Ken Griffey Sr. He owned him.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Here's another guy on the list, and it's so funny because I'm going to be on a Zoom with him on Wednesday night. Roberto Hernandez of the White Sox.
Oh wow.
Yeah, a really good guy. He had three.
He lost his life at the time, and he recovered, and then he ended up having a great career.
Yeah. What was it? Like a staph infection, Les? What was it?
It was some kind of a heart problem.
Okay. Anyway, he had 326 career saves. So, but I guess at this juncture, maybe someone will come along. Mariano Rivera, 652, the leader of the pack.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What are you looking up, Mark? Is there a constellation up there?
No, I had my TV on pause and it just turned on, so I'm trying to turn it off. Apparently, there's a time limit on how long you can pause a television show.
Okay. What are you watching?
I had on Family Guy. So.
Oh, okay. Good stuff.
Yeah.
You don't think this is funny enough?
Well, no. It was. You guys are funny enough and entertaining enough for me to pause the Family Guy about an hour and a half ago, or an hour ago.
Well, I'm so happy that you were able to fit us in between yucks. I love you, Mark. Hey, Les dropped out.
No, I'm still here as far as the audio.
Oh, the audio's
okay, as long as you're still there. Good.
Okay. Anyway, when we started, we'd say, hi, Mark. But now I guess we're going to say, bye, Mark.
Bye, Mark. Yeah.
Hey, Mark, I look forward to seeing you somewhere soon, buddy.
Hey, you guys are the best. Seriously, I love both you guys and hanging out with you guys and anytime. So I'm sure I'll be bugging you guys too. So
all right.
I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, you take care. Thanks. That's Mark Grote. You can follow him on Twitter at Mark Grote Sports. And Les, you're gone. So although your voice is still here, it's like beyond the grave or something. Anyway, we'll say goodnight and we'll talk to you. We're not going to be on next Sunday because the Cubs and the White Sox play next Sunday night, but we'll be on 2 weeks from tonight. So take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.